NFL Conspiracies and Controversies. Now, I'm a conspiracy theorist and I don't watch TV, but I do watch NFL football. It's my one way to stay connected to the mainstream and to communicate with my fellow man. But being that I'm a conspiracy theorist, anytime I watch, I connect dots and I just see things and I'm like, all right, there's just some things that are going on that when taken isolated, whatever. But when you look at it as a complete picture, a bigger thing starts to emerge. And let's start with all the gate scandals. We have Spygate, Bountygate, Bullygate, Deflategate, Bottlegate, Bumpgate, Noisegate, Tripgate. So the first one was Spygate. Now, Spygate was when the Patriots got busted for supposedly videotaping, I think, the New York Jets. And when that happened, I was like, really? I mean, all the teams videotape each other. By default, all the games are televised. I mean, what's to stop anybody from going to some other team's practice and videotaping them? So the Spygate thing was just kind of off to me. The Patriots that year wound up going 18-0 and then lost to the Giants in the Super Bowl to not have a perfect season. And if they went perfect, people would have blamed Spygate, that they cheated. People just love to call the Patriots cheaters. At this point, they had won 3 Super Bowls, and I get people just hate the winner, and when you can't beat somebody, you say they're cheating. That's super lame. If anything, I'm into videography, and I thought if the Patriots were videotaping, it was pretty smart. I don't see it as cheating. It like reminded me of the Enron scandal, where I'm like, really? You think Enron is the only company in the world that's cheating on their accounting books? And so when the Patriots got isolated as being the sole videotaping cheaters, I was like, man, something else is going on here. Because I just didn't buy it. Buy it meaning, like, what's the problem? And the Patriots find clever ways to win games, and you'll see later on. All right, the next BS one was Bountygate. So when Bountygate happened, supposedly, I don't know, Greg Williams or somebody on the Saints was paying the players to like hurt players intentionally on the opposite team. And so when this came out, I was like, really? So this is the first time this has ever happened. Like the Saints were the first team ever to pay players to hurt the other opposing team. Like, how did that information even leak? And it was such a big deal, and it lasted so long, and players got suspended, coaches got like banned. And the Saints had won the Super Bowl a year or two earlier. And then even the year before that was when Hurricane Katrina happened, and the Saints were like reborn and everybody's favorite team in the world, and Drew Brees and Sean Payton. And then they're caught in this scandal. It really threw me off. And plus, when they asked Brett Favre, because Brett Favre was one of the targeted players, he's like, I'll take it as a badge of honor. And I'm not saying it's good for players to get paid to hurt other players. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's, as a conspiracy theorist, I'm like, why is this such a big deal right now? How is this even a big deal? How is anybody shocked by this? So as we get through some of these, I think the media runs experiments on people where they could take things that are just normal and then blow them out of proportion, and the way they present the information, if it's compelling enough, can they change your mind about the way you look at something? And you'll see what I mean coming up in a couple of these, especially this next one. Bullygate. Now, this is by far the most outrageously ridiculous one. And prior to it happening, there had been so many bizarre, backwards world things going on in the NFL. I was like, they're going to have to take it to the next level next year and insult my intelligence even further. And they did. I didn't think it could go this far. At this point, Bullygate is the number one absurd thing that's ever happened in football. So what happened in Bullygate was they said that Richie Incognito was bullying Jonathan Martin on the Miami Dolphins. Now, I'm a Miami Dolphins fan. I grew up in South Florida. Still am a Dolphin fan. And in fact, what made this even more absurd to me was the year before, HBO Hard Knocks ran a series on the Miami Dolphins. And in the show, I think the offensive line coach went up to Richie Incognito and said, hey, you need to toughen up Jonathan Martin. He's kind of soft. So, show him the Dolphin way. Toughen him up. Make him a man. Something to that effect. And that was never mentioned in all the reporting. And while everybody saw HBO Hard Knocks, when I would bring that up to them, they'd all act like they had amnesia. I tried to ask everybody, hey, did you see HBO Hard Knocks? Yeah. But did you see the part when the offensive line coach was telling Richie Incognito to essentially bully Jonathan Martin? So it was on HBO a year before. Why are you all surprised about this? Why are you even participating in this discussion? It's absurd. Bullying in the NFL, especially when it comes to the offensive line. The entire game is a bully contest between the offensive lineman and the defensive lineman. You're being bullied the whole game. There's even a move by the defensive lineman called the bull rush. I mean, that's a bull, I guess, for a bull, but it's a play on word for bully, right? I guess a bull is a bully. Maybe that's where they got the word from. But essentially, the offensive lineman and the defensive lineman, if you don't know football, just watch the game. They're the guys that, when they say hike, they hit each other, and both guys are trying to bully each other to get the upper hand. So when they said there was Bullygate in football, every football game I've ever watched, the cornerback, the defensive back that covers the wide receiver, he's trying his best to bully that wide receiver. He'll taunt him. He'll do things to get in the guy's head. It happens in every game. The linebackers and the defensive linemen are doing their best to jump on the quarterback's back. The game is a bully game. So the conspiracy here is why everybody went along with this, because the news presentation of it was so hardcore. And football fans, lifetime football fans that I've known my whole life, they even went along with the media's position on it. And they didn't see this as a conspiracy. I'm like, dude, how is this happening? How is this? How are people going along with this? How do they not say this is ridiculous? How? And now there was, I guess we could, look at normal things like the Obama administration wanted to reduce bullying in schools and whatnot. Okay, so I get that as an agenda for the president's administration. And it would make sense if it was in high school football. Maybe makes sense if it was college football. But it makes absolutely no sense, none, in NFL football. NFL players are college graduates for the most part. They're men. They're adults. They have children. They're fathers. How could it even be considered bullying or called bullying? It would be saying that NASCAR racers are speeding or driving too fast. But again, it's one thing for the media to report on it. But the part that tremendously offended me was how society accepted that. They accepted that, and they didn't say, what? My conspiracy theorizing, the only conclusion I could come to is, I don't know, did really wealthy feminists buy out the NFL? That's the only thing I could think, where they want to really demoralize men and demoralize the greatest male sport. That's it, because how could Bullygate happen? And how could the media's presentation of it so powerful and so in your face that it got lifetime football fans to go along with it? I don't know. I'm really mad at the people more than the media for this, for just accepting it. And let me qualify this. I don't advocate bullying. Bullying is terrible. It's wrong. It's immoral. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about people just accepting the position that the media wants you to take en masse. That's the problem I had. And the fact that it just made no sense for football. Maybe in baseball, maybe in other sports, but it just made no sense. It made no sense for NFL football. It just made no sense. And nobody had a problem with it, and that was my problem. And this whole thing is unscripted, so if I repeated myself, I apologize. So this next one we have is Deflategate. So this is the Patriots again. And when I thought they couldn't possibly beat Bullygate, and they did with Deflategate. And this too is kind of like Bullygate, where I can't believe how many people went along with this. And get, you deflated footballs. Nobody ever thought about deflating footballs until the media caused us to think about the inflation of a football. And all the other quarterbacks say that they do it. All the balls were checked in with the referee at the beginning of the game. The guy that caught the intercepted football even said that he never even said anything. There's so much surrounding this that I'm like, man, what is this? And the only thing I could think of is that Tom Brady played golf with George H.W. Bush, and he did attend the White House ceremonies when George W. Bush was president, but he didn't attend when the Patriots won the 2015 Super Bowl and Obama was president. But I think he had already been accused of the Deflategate at that point anyway. And then shortly after he didn't attend the White House, he did get suspended and then appealed it. But yeah, so this was people having their opportunity to say that Patriots were cheaters, and they love to do that. Keep in mind, I'm a Dolphins fan here, so the Patriots are rivals in our division, but I'm also, I don't do party line. If Tom Brady, I'm not going to even think about the reality of Deflategate. It's ridiculous to even talk about. How did this become a topic? But how did people go along with this and not say, this is so ridiculous? How did it get so big? But that was pretty funny when Tom Brady talked about the balls. And let me point out that, if there's other conspiracy theorists watching this and they're thinking, how is Jonathan spending all this time talking about the NFL? And it's really an opportunity for me to give non-conspiracy theorists something to look at, that because most people don't believe that the media is lying all the time, or the media is just playing with your mind, running psychological experiments, psyops. But now that I have a lot of data here that is familiar to a lot of people, maybe they could start looking at news reporting a little bit different. But as a conspiracy theorist, I know spending any time talking about NFL football because it's the bread and circus and all that, I know. And whenever I watch games, I know I'm wasting 3 hours of my life. And while I'm doing it, I know that all kinds of conspiracies are going on. I get it. It's the one normal thing I do. All right, so the rest of these aren't even worth really going into. We have Bottlegate, Bumpgate. Now, Noisegate is kind of absurd too. They were saying the Atlanta Falcons were pumping in artificial noise into the stadium. And I had always wondered, before Noisegate happened, I wondered if the Saints or the Seahawks or any of the other teams pumped in any sound. I just thought, I was like, yeah, they play music, really loud music sometimes before kickoff or before a punt return. These things could disrupt your attention, right? And so pumping in noise, I was like, all right, I don't think the Falcons are the first and only team to have ever done that. So then we have Tripgate. That's not really worth talking about. But these are all absurd. All these gates are ridiculous. And I do know that it's for ratings. On the surface, it's for ratings. But under the surface, there's always like another reason for something. And that's what I'm always trying to discover, is what's the real reason? How did this absurd story become front and center? Most status conferral topics that reach the media, that stay in the news for months, all have a hidden agenda behind it to shape society, to reconfigure the way you think about things. So again, there's no normal explanation. It's not just ratings. That's what I'm saying. There's something deeper to all these. All right, so then we had the Super Bowl 47 blackout, which should have been a bigger story. And it just kind of came and went. And that was in the Ravens 49ers Super Bowl. The power went out like shortly after Beyonce's performance. And the whole stadium blacked out. There was never really any good explanation as to why. There was like a bad explanation, kind of like in 1947 Roswell, New Mexico, where they said it was weather balloons. But nothing that really ever satisfied me. And since no one was told to keep thinking about it, everybody forgot about it. I haven't forgot about it. I still know why the power went out in the Super Bowl. But maybe it was a normal circumstance, but it seemed kind of strange. Then you have the snowplow game, whoop-de-doo. Tuck rule, that was another Tom Brady thing. The Favre rule. Browns texting the sidelines. They got in trouble for sending text messages. All right, now here's one that with some teeth here. The Tio Conspiracy. There was a time, and people won't remember this, but Tio was a celebrated athlete who played for the San Francisco 49ers and then got traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. And even when he was on the Eagles, he still wasn't considered public enemy number one. But at the end of the Super Bowl, when it was the Eagles versus the Patriots, the Eagles lost the game, and on that last drive, Donovan McNabb was really slow getting to the line. So much so that if you could find the actual footage of the game, the announcer says, what is Donovan McNabb doing? Does he not realize that the clock is ticking, the game's almost over? Why does he have no urgency? This is the Super Bowl. And at the end of the game, I think Tio had said that McNabb threw the game. And ever since he said that, they made him out to be this maniac nutcase. They kicked him off the team. He ended up getting traded to the Cowboys. And this is after the Eagles acquired him, and he got the Eagles to the Super Bowl, something they couldn't get to over the previous years. Goes to the Eagles, says McNabb threw the game. They call him a liar, a maniac, all this stuff. Then there's like this suicide watch of Tio. He's taking like sleeping pills and whatnot. And they just like destroyed his character. And everybody ate it up, went along with it. They loved to hate Tio, and they never asked any questions. They just joined the hate campaign. Tio, he's an asshole. And he might have told the truth about somebody throwing that game. And not only that, the game ended with Rodney Harrison intercepting McNabb. And if I remember correctly, he just kind of ate the ball and kneeled it, which we know was really it was sportsmanlike to do that. But had he returned it closer and the Patriots kick another field goal, or maybe he could have ran it back and scored a touchdown, the Patriots would have covered the point spread. But because he didn't, if you bet on the Eagles, you would have won the money because the point spread was still in the Eagles' favor. The Patriots didn't score enough points. So even that, you could say, what was going on with that? But I doubt Rodney Harrison was doing anything wrong. He intercepted it. He ate it, to win the game. He did the right thing. But there's just controversy surrounding that game. And if you could find footage, there used to be footage online. It's all been yanked. But check that last drive with McNabb and then see what happened to Tio after that game. He gets him to the Super Bowl, and then they get rid of him. It reminded me of Jose Canseco saying that the players were using steroids, and everyone's like, no, Jose Canseco's crazy. He's a nutcase. He's jealous. He's mad, blah, blah, blah. It turns out Jose Canseco was right. But Rafael Palmeiro sure lied to whoever he was talking to, and that was okay, and he never really got in trouble for that. And people still think Jose Canseco's crazy, even though he's like, look, I personally injected these guys. But Jose Canseco became public enemy number one for telling the truth. Tio may or may not have told the truth, and he became public enemy number one. So I'm bringing these up. I don't care about Tio. I don't care about Jose Canseco. I don't care about any of this. What I do care about is you seeing how the news goes after you if you challenge the status quo or you do something they don't want. That's the key. So when you see celebrities getting in trouble, you got to ask what's really going on. Why is this so public? Why is this being brought to our attention? And, Tio fulfilled the Tony Montana quote from Scarface. You need people like me so you could point your finger and say, that's the bad guy. And people love to do that all the time. Britney Spears, she had a nice squeaky clean image. And when she pretended to go nuts and shaved her head, people were so happy to make fun of her and talk all this trash about Britney Spears. Again, I don't care about Britney Spears, but I watch the way people behave. They love to say, you're not so special. You're a piece of junk like the rest of us. And they love to tear down, like Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods was a perfect athlete, perfect role model, and then he gets set up and everybody laughs and makes jokes about Tiger Woods, and I'm sitting there saying, wait a minute, there's something else going on here. But nobody even wants to explore that because they're having so much fun tearing down the perfect citizen. They love to tear that down. All right, so this one here, Michael Vick dogfighting. This is another example. Now, prior to the dogfighting thing happening, there was a NFL Network. It was either Thursday Night Football or Saturday Night Football, but it was in their first season of broadcasting. And I remember the game clearly because I had just gotten an HD TV, and NFL Network was a new station. And the Dallas Cowboys played the Atlanta Falcons. It was in December 2006. The Falcons were winning the game, and I think that game was the game where Drew Bledsoe got hurt and Tony Romo took over, and it was like Tony Romo's first game, if I remember correctly. But what I do remember of the game was Michael Vick was the quarterback for the Falcons, and he was having a great game. He even broke like the franchise record for most rushing yards in a season. It was like 990 something, or maybe it was the NFL record for a quarterback, most rushing yards in a season. And then the Falcons were winning, and then he like pulls his groin and he benched himself, which I had never seen a player take themselves out of the game. And Michael Vick took himself out of the game. I was like, man, can that happen? You could take yourself out of a game? Okay. And like the announcers were like, how does Michael Vick do this? His team needs him right now. They're trying to make a playoff run here, and he's on the sideline. Matt Schaub's in the game, and the Cowboys then scored like twice in a row or whatever, and the Cowboys ended up winning the game. And the news articles that came out after the game were not mad at Michael Vick. You would have thought that there would have been negative press on Michael Vick for that game. But they were like, oh, hey, Michael Vick had a great game, great season. He broke the record. And there was nothing negative about him benching himself. It wasn't even mentioned in the news articles that exist. So that made me say, man, maybe he like indirectly kind of threw that game, because the Falcons should have won that game and the Cowboys won. And what's remembered and reported on, even though it wasn't shown, was that Tio spit in one of the defensive backs on the Falcons. And so that's like the headline of the story, but nothing else. And so anyway, shortly thereafter, Michael Vick, I think it was the same year, the dogfighting event happened. But what's strange about it is they like RICO acted his property. And, leading up to that, I had heard some, rap albums, and like the rappers were talking about Michael Vick in it. And I was like, wow, I guess Michael Vick's got a lot of power, and I don't know if the dog, obviously he probably had dogs and he was probably dog fighting, but why did that get so gigantic? Really, okay, so Michael Vick had a dog fighting ring. Okay, punish him, whoop-de-doo, but it was like all over the news. Clinton Portis stuck up for Michael Vick, and he got in trouble. And like Work Done, he used to have like a dog chain around his neck, and Jim Mora Jr., Work Done and Jim Mora Jr. got out of town as quick as they could. And Clinton Portis, he kind of got attacked. And then Michael Vick like went to jail for fighting dogs. And I'm not saying fighting dogs is good. It's wrong. But the amount of the big deal that got made out of it, and all Michael Vick's property getting seized, and just everything that happened to him, you got to say it's got to be something else than dogfighting. There's no way that this is only about dogfighting. It could be. Maybe I'm a conspiracy theorist. You could say, hey, man, I think you look too far into things. But the way it played out, it just seemed like, I'm like, why is nobody asking what's really going on here? Not that it matters, but you could use cases like this when the media blows something up. You could say, all right, why is this going on? What can I learn from this? What can I derive from this? And what is this really saying? Earlier when I was talking about Britney Spears, Hannah Montana came on the scene, and I remember saying, probably in 5 years, this girl is going to turn into something else. And sure enough, Miley Cyrus, and I'm not a fortune teller, it's just they seem to follow this planned script where it all happens like that. I guess what happens is you gain one demographic, and then you want to get the other demographic. And the idea is that you'll retain a percentage of the first demographic. You go all nuts, and then you get the other demographic. So it's business. But at the same time, I think there's something else with it. All right, so then we got, last year, we had Adrian Peterson with the child abuse, Ray Rice punching the girl in the elevator, and then now they're trying to pin some like drugs on Peyton Manning, human growth hormone. Something that the guy really would need to recover. And so it's like, no, you can't use modern sports medicine to recover your body. How do they expect these guys to heal? But the Adrian Peterson thing and the Ray Rice thing seem to be like anti-male things, which is why I presume that wealthy feminists bought out the NFL just to stick it to everybody. It's just my theory. I mean, it's really an unsubstantiated conspiracy theory, but there was all these advertisements in between games when it was NFL players with a white background. We need to have a talk. We need to talk about spousal abuse. We're wrong. It was like, what? I can't believe this is happening. Now, granted, beating your wife is not good, but does this have a place in football? Like, why? As guys say, this is like the one place we get to go where we don't get assaulted and we still get to keep good old man stuff. And even that's being attacked. And, I made the video on the pink conspiracy. Why is there breast cancer awareness in the NFL? A lot of people were mad at me for that. Other people supported it because they saw what I saw. But, this is an all-male sport. Shouldn't there be like testicular cancer awareness, prostate cancer, colon cancer, breast cancer awareness? I understand there's, women watch the game. Everybody has a mother. But it just seems like a conspiracy that it would be in NFL football because it really doesn't make sense. And at this point, we're all aware of it. We're aware of breast cancer. Can we cure it? How about cure it? Don't get mad at me. Cure the disease. How's that? If you haven't seen the Pink Conspiracy video, it's on my channel. If you got this far in this video, you'll probably, want to see that video. So it's controversial. People got hung up on certain parts of it. They didn't listen to the overall message. And in that video, I tried to give a historical context. That's why it was 20 minutes long. I wanted to give a historical context of, the way things were in the early 90s so that you could understand. But people didn't catch that part. Anyway, and let me qualify this as well. I'm all for women's rights. I'm happy of all the progress that was made. Ayn Rand is a great woman figure of the 20th century, one of my favorite. I'm for equal pay for equal work, but there's so many different strange things going on in the NFL that scream, feminist agenda or some agenda. I don't know. I'm blaming it on the feminists, but there's some agenda going on. It's a lot of anti-male agenda going on. When I say anti-male, that doesn't mean I'm a male chauvinist. I don't really follow these gender-based arguments that go on. It's just that it's happened so much that I'm now starting to look into these things because it's like, whoa, what happened? What? And look, I just outlined, I spoke on this stuff for almost a half hour now. So clearly there's something going on. Maybe it's simply headlines. Maybe because NFL Network broadcasts 365 days a year that they need to keep news cycles going. But I don't know. Somehow I think it's a little deeper than that. If you're a longtime subscriber to this channel, look, this was a video that it's just something that's been on my mind and I needed to get it out. And now that I got it out, I can move on with my life. So thanks for just letting me, puke this out. This might have wasted a half hour of your life, and I'm sorry, but I needed to just get this out. Now I don't have to think about this anymore. Now I can finally move on. Most of these videos like this are just me helping. It's closure for me. I'm venting. Basically, I'm venting. Oh, and one last thing. When I was talking about curing breast cancer, I saw in one of the Republican debates, Mike Huckabee, he said, I have one of the answers for the healthcare crisis. Why don't we just go back to curing diseases? That would sure reduce the healthcare burden. And that quote should have gone viral, but it just vanished. Mike Huckabee said, why don't we go back to curing diseases? It's amazing. I just got to say it, make a video, and move on. So that's what this is. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.